I'm Eve, I work at Arts for Health. I do art therapy. Today we're doing an art therapy video all about music. So today our video is called Paint Music. So the basic idea is that we're going to be putting some music on in the background and painting what it makes us think of. So this is all about building up our imagination and using what we hear to turn into some sort of image using our hand and our paint. Okay, so materials that we need for this process today. We don't need too many apart from paint and paintbrush and some paper and a pen to do a written reflection at the end. But the key thing that we do need is some music. So that might be on your phone, you might have a radio or some CDs, something online. So choose some music, but we don't need to spend time trying to choose the perfect piece of music. Anything that doesn't have too many lyrics will be useful because lyrics will often get us thinking a bit more specifically. We want some more instrumental music that can get more into your emotions. But as always, there's no rules. If you would like to use any sort of music with lyrics or some specific music that you have in mind, it's always up to you. So choose some sort of music that feels positive and useful that you would like to listen to. To get us into this sensory listening painting zone, we're going to do a body scan as our first step. So you might have heard of a body scan. What a body scan is going in your head, noticing all the different parts of your body and scanning over them and noticing how they're feeling. So this could be how they're physically feeling, maybe hot or cold or tight. It could be how they're feeling in terms of fabric or air on them, any sort of physical sensation that you're feeling on the outside of your body, or it could be on the inside. So you might notice what your stomach is feeling like. And we can start to get a little bit more internal as well. So for the body scan, we have a piece of paper in front of us. Often we draw a physical outline, so a head, arms and legs, and then you're going to add in colour and lines using paint to represent how each of your body parts feels. So you're sitting down and noticing, what do my arms feel like, for example, and then putting some colour or some sort of lines on the arms in your image and going over your whole body and just seeing what stands out and what you can put down with colour as part of what you're physically feeling or as part of what you're feeling internally. So there might be ways to represent some of your emotions. The idea of this body scan is that it helps us to start to notice what we're feeling and gets us into a physical sensory sort of mindset and increases our awareness of what we're feeling from our physical body and what's coming in through our senses. So this is useful as a way to calm us down because we can use these physical noticings to help us regulate our body and regulate our breathing. But it's also useful just as a start as we move on to the next part of our art therapy process. And the next thing to do is to put on your music and to use your paint to put on the page what it feels to you that the music is telling you, what it feels like is the story of the music, the feelings, the emotions of the music, what's happening in the music. We're going to try and represent that down on the page. This could be feelings that are coming through from the music, it could be thoughts that come into your head, it could be memories or specific events that are popping into your head. So you might end up drawing a scene of some sort of story, or it might be what you think the music is telling you, what message there is in the music. Or it might be abstract with colours coming in and out just with shape. It could be finger painting, it could be using a brush. Any way that you want to represent the music with paint. The other thing we're doing while we're painting, especially at the beginning, is just noticing what our body is doing. So we're using our senses in terms of our ears, listening to the music, but you might also find it helpful to notice what your body is doing just as you start. So you can notice, am I tight or loose in my arm? Am I breathing calmly? How do my feet feel? Are they warm or cold? Then once we've focused on our physical body and our senses, often we feel a little bit calmer and you'll suddenly notice that you're focusing on the music and you're able to get right into your imagination with a little bit more ease. So in this part, there's no need to judge yourself about being right or wrong. It's not about what the composer or the artist who made the music, it's not what they are putting in, it's what you're taking from the music. So it's your own imagination and your own understanding, not what someone else said. One good thing to do here is to just notice how long is your piece of music. If it's not very long, just put it on repeat so you can go through a couple of times and give yourself enough time to do a bit of a painting. If it's a long song, then that's good too. Then the next thing to do is it can actually be quite useful to put down a couple of words just as you finish up your painting process. So if you can, notice about 6 words that come to you as you look at your image once you've finished painting. Note those 6 words down, so they might be descriptions of your image or something that they remind you of or something about the picture that stands out to you just as you finish painting. Then we're going to give ourselves a little bit of distance from the image and take a little bit of a pause before we get too much into our thinking and our writing in our brain. Then after a little pause, you're going to write a title for your image and start to work on your written reflection. So your written reflection doesn't have to be really long, but it's good to give ourselves a little bit of time to get into our thoughts and to make some meaning and be a bit reflective about the painting and the sensory process that we've just been through. So we'll do that together and then I'll come back and share what I've done. Okay, I have done my images. So I've got my body scan image here, and then I've got my paint to music image here and my reflection here. So firstly with my body scan, so this was interesting because I've done body scans before, but it was interesting coming from a position where I wasn't focused so much on my body to suddenly sitting down and giving myself space to focus on a few different parts of my body and what they felt like. So it felt like a nice invite to come in and just easily sit down and give myself time to notice what was happening for me. I started off noticing the temperature, so I think I had a little bit of cold around the edges of my arms. I noticed that I felt very calm in my middle, in my stomach, that my head, around my eyes felt a little bit tired. I felt a little bit of tight, almost like inflammation, just slightly sore muscles around my legs. I felt some air and something happening in my throat. So there was lots of interesting things to notice. And one thing that was actually slightly different for me this time doing this was that my attention went from my body, and I also actually started to get into my sensory awareness as well. And I just had a little bit of bird song outside that I noticed. And then the last thing that was just a little bit unique about this body scan was that the floor actually came into my image, as in just this warm wooden floor underneath me, and the feeling that it was very comfortable and stable. So that was a really good way for me to start. So then I got into my painting to music, so I put my music on, and straight away one of the early sounds was sort of like a booming, a gentle booming, so some sort of drum in my music, and I thought about some clouds sort of bouncing up and starting to unfold, and then it was very quick that I imagined an ocean, and basically from there a story started to arrive for me. So in my reflection, I noticed that because I'd got into my body and into my senses, it felt like it was quite quick for a story to arrive and for the sounds of the music to turn into something, to turn into emotions and narrative for me. So that was something that I noticed. So I had some clouds and some ocean, and because of some deep noises in my music, I think, I started to think about the depths of the ocean, and I was just adding all these deep layers in sort of warm dark colors. Then I did notice that I was thinking, oh, the brighter colors, they felt like there was some sort of, not really lightning, but maybe rain coming down and light going into the deeper, darker parts of the ocean as well. So it was quite comforting as I thought about the comfort of the dark, warm water, and then also this bright color coming down. So it's quite a simple story, something about clouds and booming, and then some sort of light coming down to the world under the ocean. And then a final thing that happened in the story for me was that I thought about land, and I realized, which I've never thought about before, that the land that we live in goes down as deep as the water goes. So it goes very, very deep, that our continents are built on such deep pillars of land. And that was very comforting to me. So I didn't plan for that to happen. I wasn't planning on trying to be comforting for myself, but there was something that was coming out about the depth and the warmth, that I was feeling quite comfortable in my body and like I was really enjoying my music. It felt like it was an amazing space for my imagination to go wild a little bit and have the freedom to just make the story, just to follow the music wherever the story led me. So basically that's the overall story, but then as I took time to write down some words and to put a title in, I started to get, as we said, I started to get a little bit more into the reflection phase. So my words were depth, dark, warm, connection, aftermath, and worlds. So those words, I didn't put lots of planning in. Those were sort of instinctive words that just came out right at the end as I looked at my painting, even before it dried. Then I gave myself a little pause and then came back doing the title and the written reflection. So as I worked on the written reflection, I started to notice that there was something about connection, and that had popped up in the words already. Something about connection between the depths of the ocean and the land and the height of the sky. And I noticed that the image was almost half and half, like two pieces connecting with each other. I noticed that the color down here started to connect a little bit with the color, the rain, the golden rain coming down from the top. So there was a few different types of connection. But it wasn't all just perfect and positive and happy. The depths of the ocean felt quite deep and strong to me, and the big clouds, maybe there's something a little bit scary about them. So I noticed that depth and that slightly sort of luminous, somber feeling, and I wrote about that, and I gave myself some time in my written reflection to explore that, so it didn't become too big for me. I was able to explore it in my painting and able to explore that in my writing, and that keeps me safe. I did notice as I was painting that because I had already spent a little bit of time in the body scan and noticing my own physical body and my senses, I was actually feeling quite calm and loose in my breathing and in my arm as I painted. I felt quite physically comfortable, and that allowed me to then feel quite patient and calm as I worked on all my layers. And I noticed that that calmness almost turned into curiosity for what was in the layers and what was in the clouds and what did this mean. So the calmness allowed me to be curious and to explore what was happening in my image, and that was quite cool for me. The final thing that I noticed was that there are quite a few colours linked in. So I've used the word dark a few times already, but there's also a lot of natural colour in here. So my usual green, a purple colour that's been coming through in some of my images a little bit recently, but then also kind of like rainbow colours mixed in, and lots of different purples and blues and greens and blacks and the deeper colours. So that was interesting because it started to get me thinking about like a little world and the marine life maybe that's happening under the ocean, and all the colours that would be down there and the different creatures and the life that happens. So sort of like the underwater world and how it's full of light and life of its own. And even right at the end I added a little bit more colour up the top, and it felt like that was the same thing, that there was light and life up here at the top in the heavens and down in the depths too. And I quite enjoyed that idea of life being in some of the places that we think, oh, that's dark and deep and far away. There's still a world there and there's still some life there, and we can still find something bright and life-giving down there. So that was the final idea that popped up as I was writing in my written reflection. So the other thing that I wanted to say is that the idea of this process is that we give our imagination space and nutrition to run free and practice just imagining and seeing what pops up into our head. So we give ourselves something nourishing, which is the music. We put that on and then we say, imagination, what do you see? And we give it a bit of space to run free for a little while. And that's quite cool because the amount of music we have and the amount of page we have to paint with, that's kind of like our parameters. And then within that space, within that time, we just let our imagination go and see what pops up. So it's a way of us practicing building our imagination. And this is a really useful tool because when sometimes we can feel stuck in life or something's challenging, our imagination and our ability to see and picture, imagine things happening in a different way, or imagine a new solution to something that's happening in our life, that imagination can be a really useful tool for us. So this is just a little small way of us practicing getting our imagination flowing, and that can be really comforting for us because our imagination is there just to be a comforting, soothing tool, but it's also a cool way of building our problem-solving ability. So the kind of two ideas of our process today are allowing our imagination to build up its problem-solving capacity, and also allowing our imagination to help us be calm and take time out and just follow what's happening with the music. So our senses feel calm and our body feels calm and our imagination feels calm. So we've also practiced building meaning, seeing what does this image make me think of, what does it mean to me. So those are some of the ideas of what we've done today. So I hope you've enjoyed our process today. I hope you enjoy doing a body scan and then painting to music and doing your written reflection. Come back and watch some of our other videos or our next one next week. Have a good time. Thank you.